Bitcoin just closed its worst weekly candle in the past 9 months, and people are still convinced that we are not in a bear market. Meanwhile, we're seeing precious metals go absolutely parabolic, with gold now above $5,000 and silver now above $100. In today's video, I'll be taking you through the most recent Bitcoin price action, how I've been trading this market, because yes, I did take a cheeky scalp long late last night when we dumped, and of course, taking you through the most relevant news in the industry. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So if you've been subscribed for a while, you know that I've been vocally bearish on altcoins against Bitcoin. You can see Bitcoin dominance is just continuing to increase here, and I read this somewhere, I just thought I'd have to share. Bitcoin is essentially an altcoin to the stock market and precious metals. So what you'll notice here is that when there is market uncertainty, Bitcoin struggles to perform. That on top of the fact that we are indeed in a bear market. Now, late last night, I decided to enter a cheeky scalp long for Bitcoin. Now, the reasoning was clear. I mentioned it in my previous video. If we were to take out these lows, which you can see we did manage to do so, it would make sense from a risk to reward perspective to enter a small Bitcoin long. Now, you can see here that my trade is now up around $7,500. After we swept this low multiple times, I went ahead and entered long. This was shared in my video, but the actual execution was shared in my Telegram community. If you've been in my community for a while, you know that I was looking for a long in this market, but the market just kept on dumping. And to be perfectly clear, my base case is still that Bitcoin will be moving lower. I actually took a little bit more profits off of my most recent Bitcoin short when we dumped to $86,000. You can see that my average entry is still around $97,000 for Bitcoin. This was a relatively big trade, and I will still maintain this position because I do think that Bitcoin will ultimately head lower. So you can trade the market in this kind of way. You have a swing trade open, and you can take little scalps here and there, which is typically what I would recommend. And as a matter of fact, I have two major swing trades open. One, my Bitcoin short from around $97,000, where you can see I've already secured around 6 figures in profit, and two, my Bitcoin long from the lows, which I've constantly referred to on the channel. I've secured over 300K profit on this trade, but I still maintain the rest of the position just in case if for whatever reason Bitcoin starts pumping. Now, this entry was below $83,000. My most recent scalp that I decided to take, and it was shared in my group, was right when we tapped into these lows. And to give you a quick recap as to why I did this and shared it in my group, we came to the value area low since the entire range of November 2024. This was mentioned in my previous video, and it was the biggest local liquidity zone to wipe out longs. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, on the 4-hour time frame, we had so much liquidity built up right here before Bitcoin did start a little bit of an uptrend. Now, ultimately, this is where I went short, but tagging this downside liquidity and going right into this value area low was a great risk to reward opportunity to take a small scalp long. I have to reiterate, I am not bullish on Bitcoin, but when you get these kinds of opportunities in the market, we're always bound to get some kind of bounce. And so I shared it in my group. You can see here that I mentioned this. The dump continues. Highly likely my next trade will be a long if we can sweep up the liquidity near the value area low. These dumps can get quite aggressive, so a sweep and reclaim would be crucial, but ultimately I'm very pleased with my Bitcoin short execution, which I will continue to hold. While I'm at it, took another 20% profits to make it 100K realized. We'll be holding the rest for lower, eyeing the long, let's see. Then I leave a couple of voice messages in my group, and you can see my average entry right around $86,240, and this is ultimately the message that I gave. This is tricky price action, but it's worth the risk in my opinion, as the big cluster of liquidity has been grabbed. To be safer, I could have waited until we tapped into that value area low below $86,000, but we did come into an area of interest, and I did want a nice scalp long before I went to sleep. Ultimately, this trade is speculation on a liquidity grab into support and a mini bounce, but this downtrend is quite ferocious, so it's important to have proper risk management. This is not one of those positions that I'm willing to dollar cost average into, but rather I enter the position, I let it play out. If it plays out, it plays out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So right now I have this trade open, longing Bitcoin from around $86,240. You can see that we did come into the area of interest, but I would never blindly long there. I waited for a reclaim of this level before going ahead and longing Bitcoin. So now we'll have to see how the price action develops. This is a relatively small trade compared to my other positions, but I just thought I'd share it with you anyways. This was shared late last night in my group. And by the way, if you're tired of the bullshit in the crypto industry and you just want to trade the market that's right in front of you, as I've been constantly talking about every single day on my channel, and you want access to my own personal trades, you do have the first link in my description down below. I know for a fact that this year will be a profitable trading year for me because in these kinds of ranging environments, I really do thrive. So if you want access to all of my own trades and you want a no bullshit crypto group completely for free, DM me the keyword 2026 on Telegram after you click the first link in my description down below. Also, a reminder, I am not a financial advisor. Nothing that I discuss on the channel or in my groups should be construed as financial advice. I'm just sharing with you exactly how I am personally trading the market. So if that sounds interesting, make sure to go ahead, click the first link in my description down below. Now, you can see that we're playing this range as I've discussed on the channel and as I discussed in my group. But at this point in time, it's not time to get very bullish. I know we got a little bit of a bounce here, but ultimately I do think we will trend lower. The other thing that really contributed to me taking this quick scalp long in the market is because we do have a CME gap up above, but the CME gap isn't enough. We also had the local liquidity that was originally grabbed late last night, and you can see that a lot of shorts have piled into the market. So even though my base case is that Bitcoin will be moving lower, I will maintain my big Bitcoin short from around $97,000. It wouldn't surprise me if in the short term, we get a little bit of relief. We absolutely nuked last night, and all I was doing was waiting for the reaction before I can go ahead and long this market. So at this point in time, all my longs are taken with aggressive risk management. I might actually move my stop loss to break even because I'm not that confident that Bitcoin will just explode here. In fact, it's not my base case. Remember what I've been teaching you in my videos. When everyone gets extremely bearish, Exhibit A late last night when Bitcoin hit $86,000, I saw a lot of aggressive shorts piling in, a lot of liquidity to the downside being grabbed, a lot of posts on Twitter being extremely bearish. That is the time where you want to consider longs. Now, of course, just because everyone is bearish, it doesn't mean that you can just blindly long, but ideally you start looking for longs into crucial support levels. And actually, we did tap into a crucial support level, grabbing a lot of downside liquidity. Risk to reward was there. Now, what is next in this market? We have to see what happens to the stock market, because if the stock market dumps, unfortunately, my trade will likely get stopped out on this most recent Bitcoin long. But I'm very, very happy with my positioning, and I'm content with how I've been playing this market thus far. Something else you need to consider here is that lots of liquidity is continuing to build up to the upside. A lot of people I'm noticing don't have very good short entries, and so on any kind of bounce that we get, they are just aggressively shorting. This could actually be a good opportunity to liquidate some shorts before potentially moving lower. At this point in time, my base case is not that Bitcoin will go back up to $97,000, which is around my short entry. If we do, I would simply look for brand new opportunities to enter swing shorts in this market, but the market isn't so kind. And so a lot of people were expecting above $100,000, myself included, but from a risk to reward perspective, as soon as we surpassed $96,000, that was the point in time where it made sense to start looking for shorts in line with a lot of longs piling into the market and everyone being extremely bullish right into resistance. So this week, we will have the interest rate decision. 97.2% chance that no changes will be made. Rates will stay exactly the same. This is not a surprise. We've come to expect this over the past few weeks. So we need to see what comes from this along with PPI on Friday. This will likely have a significant impact on the current market conditions. And something else you want to consider. In case you don't realize what's coming, the chief investment officer of BlackRock is now expected to be the next Fed chair. And Trump says cutting rates is a requirement for the next Fed chair and is actively calling for 1% interest rates. 2026 will be a wild year. Now, I don't think that we're going to get what Trump necessarily wants, but a lot of people would argue that this is extremely bullish. Bullish or bearish, it doesn't matter. I will simply continue to trade the market right in front of me. Structurally, Bitcoin is still in a downtrend, and you should treat any pumps as such. Any massive pumps, like the one we got up to $97,000, was an excellent shorting opportunity. If we do get a big pump, it should be treated as a swing short opportunity. Look at the structure, it is still bearish. Bitcoin could easily revisit the 80K lows before getting a significant move back up only to get rejected again. This is typical bear market behavior, but it shouldn't faze you because you can make money whether the market goes up or down. That is what I've been trying to educate you on. And that sums up today's quick video. Bitcoin dumped late last night to around $86,000, which was an excellent scalp long entry. To be perfectly clear, I am still bearish, but if we are to get a little bit of relief, it would have stemmed from this zone. Therefore, from a risk to reward perspective, I went long, shared it in my group, and I also discussed it in my previous video. Let's see what the market gives us this week. It should be a pretty volatile week with FOMC, interest rate decision. Let's see what Jerome Powell's remarks are at the conference as well. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. If you want to see how I am personally trading the market, make sure to DM me on Telegram, the keyword 2026, and I'd be happy to onboard you into that group. And of course, I have my bluff and leverage trading tutorial right here. I'll see you in the next video.